great, or are you striving to be average? One of the things that I've noticed in the Christian atmosphere is this great strive to be average. You know what I mean by that? I mean, when someone says, well, I don't really need to read my Bible every day. I get the word from my pastor. He seemed to be an okay guy. He studied a little bit. That's the spirit of average. And some of us say, well, hey, I'm not going to go to hell just because I don't read the Bible every day. That's a spirit of average. Some of you say, well, in the Bible, there's nothing against alcohol. There's nothing against, sure, but that's a spirit of average. Going the extra mile to show people that, hey, I want to take care of my body. I've seen what it's done to other people. I understand the health risk there. Oh, well, Pastor John, they just legalized weed. Come on now, you coming down on us too hard. The spirit of average will lead you downhill. What you want to do is you want to strive for perfection. And that will put you in a place in life where you're saying, hey, I'm sure I could do this. I'm sure I could cuss and still go to heaven. But I don't think that any of you all would be very happy in following me if you knew I used profanity. I don't think that, I can say this, since I've been saved, I've not used cuss words. My daughter is 15 years old. She's never heard a cuss word come out of my mouth or her mom's mouth. Okay? Well, thank God for that. I'm saying that because how would I feel standing up telling you not to cuss and her sitting there saying, he just cussed me out yesterday. Right? Think about it. I'm not coming down on you saying you do this, that, and the other. I'm just saying, don't you want a leader that's striving for perfection? Well, if you do, think about the fact that you are a leader to someone. And they're going to want a leader that's striving for perfection. Every time we do marriage counseling, every time we do family counseling, I always tell the moms and the dads, don't cuss at the children. Don't call them out of their name. Don't tell them you're going to be just like your daddy, all locked up and everything. Don't do that. There's absolutely no benefit. Now, before I gave my life to the Lord, of course, I used to love to cuss. Every word, it was art. It was artwork. Because you had to fit those words in delicately. I know y'all don't know what I'm talking about because I know none of y'all cuss. And I can't say the same thing about my son. My son, he's older. And he can remember when every other word was gently fitted, properly so. And sometimes I would go out in the garage and I'd be out there shining up my car and I'd cuss the car out. And this MF gonna do this, blah, blah, blah. And one day my wife came out into the garage. She said, honey, who are you cussing at? I said, I'm just practicing. You see, Parison got mad at that. But you see, so this spirit of average, we have to break it. We have to be a people that's willing to say, I could do that. Yes, I could do it, and nothing's gonna happen to me, but integrity. I wanna go past the spirit of average. That's what I'm preaching today. Because you're gonna see where Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, you're going to see where these guys went past the spirit of average in order to make it into a book that is a bestseller, that is known all over the world for the actions that they took. Here's your quote of the morning. Because if we don't stand for something, we shall fall for anything. Now, I wanted to give you the author, the best dated author for this, because many of us we've heard Malcolm X say this. We've heard Martin Luther King say this. There was a chaplain of the Senate back in 1947. Peter Marshall, as far as my research goes, is the first person to actually coin this. That if you don't stand up for something, then chances are you're going to fall for anything. And so that's what happens in this story. You see that these guys say, hey, I'm going to stand for what I believe. Can I just take you to the beginning of this particular story before we get started here? Now, we're right around 605 BC. In 608, Jehoiakim, he comes on the scene as the king of Judah or Jerusalem, a city that's been attacked 52 times in the history of the Bible. It's been besieged 22 times. It's been destroyed totally twice. And captured and recaptured 42 times. He is a part of the Babylonian structure. Babylon is located in what we now call modern day Iraq. And so they sinned against God, and God allowed the Assyrian army to attack them. And to be successful, this happens in the summer of 605 BC. Now remember, Jerusalem is a place that's situated with stratagem of no other city worldwide. It's situated, valleys are under it, it's high. The only way you could even see it if you were up on the Kidron Valley. You got the east gates, you got the dung walls, you got southwest Jerusalem. I mean, this place is secure. And one thing that Jerusalem has that not very many cities have, at least throughout the world during this time, they have an underground water system. Well, you might ask, why is that so important? Let me tell you, in many wars, they're fought from the water system and not from the ground troop. In the days of old, you could just poison the water and wait, and that city would die. But Jerusalem, this particular fort, this particular, I'll just call it a fort, or citadel is what a lot of people would call it. They're protected from everything. But they are not obeying God. And so Nebuchadnezzar says, if you all don't pay this tax, we're going to seize the city. So that's what you see happening here. It was not his first desire to walk away with slaves. What he really wanted to do was shake them down again for another tax. And they refused to pay it. Jehoiakim, who was a part of the Babylonian structure, he says, hey, I'm not going to pay it anymore. And so what happens is Nebuchadnezzar seizes the city. He takes sacred things from the temple, and he says, I want the smartest of all their children. Now just think about it, church. Sometimes you have some children at home that you wish that... Let me stop playing around. Sometimes you have some children at home, you say, well, if ever they were gonna, if they had to pick somebody to take with them, you know, he would do okay. I'm putting it mild. But they said, no, I want the best and the brightest of the family. I I want the ones that can speak other languages. You know, the Chaldeans, they had a very, very, very complicated language that they spoke in that period of time. You know, they had like 4 or 5 different languages that they put together. The king said to Ashpenaz, he says, hey, I want you to go get me all the smart ones. You bring the ones that can understand my language. He says, I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to feed them for 3 years, and I'm going to educate them for 3 years. Think about that. The king was making an investment. I mean, like I say to some of my folks, shoot, I sure hope your husband, your wives can feed you. Because the way I see you eat, I mean, sometimes you look at these weddings and you see the parents crying and you say, don't worry, it's going to be all right. These are tears of joy. I'm glad he going to feed her. So that was what the king had done. He says, listen, I'm gonna handle this. I'm going to give them an opportunity to work for the royal government. And actually, that's what Daniel does. 70 years of his life. 70 years, he works for all 4 kings. He is the most valued worker that they've ever experienced. And so he calls them to his court. He has this top guy, Ashpenaz. He gives him instructions. He says, listen, here's what I want you to do. I want you to feed them. I want you to train them. And then, along with protocol, they better be everything that I want them to be, okay? Because it wasn't like the government now. And no offense to you government workers that take 2-hour lunch breaks. And no offense to you government workers that, you know, get coffee all day long, you know, and make copies of the latest bingo stuff on the copying machine. No offense to you all, if there's any here. But in the days of old, when you didn't do the job that they appointed you to do, you just got killed. So you didn't have to worry about EEO. You know, you didn't have to worry about writing a grievance. You don't have to worry about being suspended or, oh, I got written up. No, they just killed you. You have to understand this when you read Daniel, that Ashpenaz's job was on the line if they did not look like what the king wanted them to look like. He didn't call a meeting and say, I want to have an action. I want to have a meeting today. Oh, I'm going to send you to a training. Here, get on a plane to Las Vegas and go out to a training so you can learn more about doing your job. No, he doesn't say that. He says, hey, Ashpenaz, if the job's not done, say goodbye to all the people you love and do it quickly. That's it. So they bring Daniel. You know, they bring. It makes me laugh. It makes me laugh because I know how we are. And, you know, I've sat down with some of us, you know, and we counsel, and they come and say, you know, hey, I didn't do this on my job, and they overreacted, and my supervisor raised his voice, and now I got a lawsuit against the job. And you see that kind of stuff going on now, and you read your history and know that a lawsuit against the job is virtually unheard of. In this day and time, you were responsible for things that you did not have control over. And so he calls them together. You know, he says, you know, hey, Hananiah, listen, you are going to eat this food because the king needs you to be strong. Mishael, I want you to eat the king's food. It's from the diet, the royal, it's a part of the royal diet. Azariah, you don't have a choice. The king has called you here. He wants you to be healthy, strong, and smart. And by the way, he wants to change your name. You know, Now, Daniel's name has significance. It means that God is our judge. So he goes to them. He said, this is what I'm going to name you. He said, I'm going to name you Ray Ray. And you, I'm going to name you Red Dog. And you Simply Boo. And these guys have been named with names that represent their family. Hey, put it this way, dads and moms, y'all know that this is true. When you name your son Theodore, the last thing you want somebody to do, walk in your house and say, what's up, Teddy? You say, that is Theodore J. Wallingford III. And somebody walk in your house and say, hey, Ted, let's go. The first thing you do as a parent, you're like, oh, that is not his name. It is Theodore Wallingford. See, so they wanted to change their name. They changed them to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Now, think about it. Those names that they received were just as funny as the names that I just said. They didn't have any significance to their lives. I mean, in fact, they tried to change Daniel's name to Belteshazzar, which is the worshiping of one of their gods, the god Marduk. So they were changing their names to represent things that they were not. Now, this is a tight piece of scripture for you to study when people start calling you out of your name. Because one thing you know for sure, the first thing the devil will do when he gets you in his clutches, he will change your name. You will get a nickname that you never thought about. And you start saying to yourself, why am I answering to this? You know, your name, you got a name, your name is Shirley. Come here, Shay Shay. And the devil changes your name to represent what he wants. So I submit to you out of Daniel 1:8. Compromise or commit. But Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the royal food and wine. He wanted to go past the spirit of average. Most people would be like, wait a minute, whoa, you gonna feed me? And I'm gonna get some wine? I know y'all don't drink this stuff, but just to those that used to, the first thing they would have said was, man, this dude serving steak and wine, I ain't never leaving here. But Daniel says, hey, no thank you, I don't want any. Well, first of all, you have to understand this. I know that we put a lot of stock in this message as to Daniel being a vegetarian. But I want you to know, as you study this further, your deep study will reveal to you that the thing that Daniel was trying to get away from is he didn't want meats and foods that had been offered to their idols. That's what he was trying to get away from. He was surpassing the spirit of average. He says here, and he asked the chief official for permission not to defile himself this way. He said to himself, hey, listen, I don't want any of the stuff that gets you all off. I want to do my own thing. Past the spirit of average. You know, I remember we baptized